Okay, so I haven't made a video in a while, so I figured I'd give some people an update on what I've been up to. So I did take the manual 6-speed out of this thing, and I recently put a 4L80E in it, a later model one, like a 2006. I got all my parts through Jake's Performance Transmission out of Texas. I've got their Stage 3, which came with the billet input shaft, the billet front hub. I also got one of their triple disc billet converters, and I really like it. So I wanted to try, I guess what would be considered the paddle shift option with the Holly. So I ended up getting one of these pro ratchet shifters and putting the buttons on there. Though it felt a little weird because in all reality you could just ratchet down to downshifting and it wouldn't have to really push the buttons. So I really wanted to try paddle shifting. So I ended up trying to figure out a way of putting it in there on the steering wheel. But then I said, you know, I really don't want the wires wrapped in around the column and all of that. So I seen a couple of the Fox body guys with the Mustangs repurposing the clock spring in there for trans brake button and bump button. So I figured I'd try to do that. And I ended up picking up a 2000 Camaro column. And it has the clock spring in there, but it had the 2 wires for the clock spring, but it also had 4 more wires for radio controls and stuff like that. So I figured if I'm going to do all this work, I've never really owned a car with a trans brake, so I went back to Jake's and I got their D3 trans brake valve body and put that in there, and I ended up hooking up the buttons and everything on the steering wheel. So now I got trans brake on the one side, bump button on the other, and they also went with the paddle shifters on there, which were actually like billet aluminum. I think they were. I found them on Etsy, believe it or not, and they're for gaming, like for video games and stuff like that. And a couple of the reviews on them, they had used them in trucks and different stuff that people did LS swaps on. So I figured I'd give it a shot. But what I also noticed is the steering column also had a delayed wiper stalk on there. So I figured I'm going to try, because I've been stuck in like a light mist of rain. I wanted to see if I could get delayed wipers in the car, though I know it was an option, and I did come across it. It's a rare option for a Monza. It's a different slide switch that normally went there. So you see I had taken that completely out as well. Took the switch out, and I made a steel plate that went in here, and then I ended up wrapping the steel plate in like a vinyl wrap you would wrap a car with. So like as it had, the steering wheel has the carbon fiber inlays on here, and over here, and thing around the horn, which I thought was pretty cool, so I figured I'd try it on there. I made a steel insert for around the gauges as well. I don't know how well you can see that, but I also wrapped that in it. But the wiper motor I ended up trying to use was out of a 2000 Astrovan, and I got it to fit really nice. It sits really nice in that little nook over there, and it does have delay, so that works well. Also, I see it has cruise control on there, though I ran all the wires for it. I'm not too sure if I'm going to hook that up. They do make stalks that don't have the cruise control on it. It would be pretty neat to have it, but it might be more of a pain in the ass than it's worth to try hooking that thing up. Let's see, what else did I do? Driving these cars, the one thing you notice right away is it ain't got no damn cup holders. And because that shifter was narrow enough, though I did move the parking brake back quite a bit compared to where most people's are. Gave me more room to pull the shifter closer to me, and alongside of it I just put 2 plastic things. Pretty much they have a threaded insert in the floor that they thread into, man, that holds any kind of large coffee or anything you want to stick in there. I can put 2 of those and still roll through the gears. It's not a problem at all. But the one thing I did do, because I didn't want the ability to, I have to have a master switch for this trans brake and everything else, so I ended up putting switches on this side as well. I got rid of the cigarette lighter because I don't smoke, and I use more USB than anything, so I got the USB thing in there, and rocket launch is the only thing I could find in a switch that basically describes how this thing is with a trans brake. But when you turn that on, it also, the switches themselves have like a halo around them that lights up, so there's no mistaking that this thing is hot. And when that's hot, you can hear the relays clicking with that, the trans brake and everything else, so that all works. And as soon as it's out, it's out. I also put a master boost switch on there, so if this is not on, it runs off the wastegate spring, which in this car is 5 pounds, and you will get maybe 5.1 pounds Even if you're beating on it, that's as high as you're going to go. The second you turn it on, I get up to 7 pounds. I think that's what it's set at. And then I repurpose the switches on the shifter. I have, if I'm spinning, I can scramble boost down, so it'll lessen it by whatever I have it set at, which I think is like 5 pounds less. And if I want a little more, I got a little more there. And I also added a boost dial, so I can turn it all the way up to 11 if I really want it. I think I'm going to have a lot of traction problems in this car, not that I don't already, but also found a spider lights, which I thought was pretty cool. So I have those, there's like an accent light built into the headlights, so I set that all up. And the manual mode, if that's on, the paddle shifter works. If that's off, it runs like a regular automatic, and just like a regular car. So far, everything I've done and been working on, everything kind of snowballed into 3 or 4 different projects, but they're all done now. I think the next thing I'm going to do is, it's kind of like a cross between a C4 Corvette rotor and a C5 Corvette caliper on an old Camaro spindle. I think I'm going to try fitting all that in the front just to get this thing to stop, because man, it goes now. I just need it to stop a whole lot better. And it's cold out here. Whew. The car wants to hibernate, but I can't seem to leave it alone. That's it for now.